People have to go somewhere. I think you just can't be in cash because all these governments are just printing too much money. The inflation problem is worldwide. And it's because all these central banks made the same mistake. And unfortunately, they were pretty much following the Fed's lead. We're the issuer of the reserve currency. And so everybody else kind of, marches to the beat of our drum. And we had interest rates at 1% or 0. And so everybody else had to come down. In fact, some countries went negative because they wanted their rates to be lower than ours. Well, when our rates are 0, how do you get below 0? So they actually went into uncharted territory in the twilight zone of negative rates, as irrational as that is. But that was only because we were at 0. That's why they had to go negative. They wanted to have easy money in relation to a U.S. Well, the U.S., we went to 0. So we kind of corrupted the monetary policy of the entire world. But I think the world is going to reject the dollar. It's already happening. I mean, in fact, with the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia and the example that we've sent to the world, I already think, the Chinese and a lot of other players are just not liking that and really wanting to take away some of America's power. And the source of that power is the reserve status of the dollar. And we lose that, and it's a whole new ballgame here. America's ability to live beyond its means is a function of the dollar's reserve status, because we can print dollars and use those dollars that we print to buy goods and services, mainly goods that we didn't produce. We create them out of thin air, and then everybody assigns a value to them. There's no question that gold is going to reemerge as the monetary unit of choice for the world. I mean, it's not an accident that gold was money for 5,000 years. It's been money for so long because it works. But governments, didn't like the gold standard because if they wanted to spend money, they needed the gold. And so they needed to collect it through taxes because they didn't have gold. The private sector had gold. And so if the government wanted gold to pay for some spending program, they had to take it from the people. Well, as much as the people like government programs, they also hate paying taxes. And so governments wanted a way to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted to give people government programs, but not give them the bill. Now, one way is like, well, we're going to tax the rich, right? Don't worry about it. We're going to give you all these goodies, but the rich people are going to pay for it, right? Well, eventually, you've taxed the rich to the point that you can't tax them any higher, or they'll, and now you have just the middle class left, and there, they don't want to pay more taxes. So they just print money. We run these huge deficits, and we pay for government with inflation. And that's why we have so much inflation, because we have so much government that we didn't pay for through taxation. So we're paying for it through inflation, which means higher prices. So I think that the free market is going to reject the dollar and other currencies because they're a flawed form of money, because they are no longer a store of value. You really have no idea. If I loan you my dollars for 10 years, I mean, in a high inflation environment, I have no idea what those dollars might buy me in 10 years. They may buy me nothing. So when the public starts to lose confidence in the value of the dollar, what are they going to use as an alternative? Well, they could use gold. Now, the inconvenience of using gold is, well, I've got a bar of gold, or I got a gold coin. I mean, one gold coin, how am I gonna buy things with it? I mean, how am I gonna just, exchange it? Now, of course, at one point we did do that. People had gold coins in their pockets, and they had bills in their pockets that were backed by gold. And if they wanted to buy something small, well, they paid in silver, or they paid in nickel, or they paid in copper, right? That's the penny. But today, because of the technology that we have now, that we didn't have in the past when we were using gold as money, because we have the internet, because we have blockchain, we can tokenize the ownership of gold and issue digital currency backed by gold instead of paper currency backed by gold that can circulate as a medium of exchange very efficiently, so that people can make big ticket purchases with gold. I could buy a car and pay in gold, or I could buy a pack of chewing gum and pay in gold, because you can break gold down into a fraction of a gram, and then I can send that fraction of a gram around the world for a fraction of a cent. All these Bitcoin guys were like, oh, see, blockchain is the death of gold. No, it's going to lead to the rebirth of gold, because Bitcoin is what we don't need. Gold is what gives the digital currency its value, because gold actually is the store of value. But with blockchain, it's a better medium of exchange than it had been in the past, because it has all the attributes of Bitcoin, except better, because it's faster and cheaper to transact. But it's also a store of value, which Bitcoin can never be, because Bitcoin has no underlying value that can be stored. The government has a monopoly on money, and we're being overcharged through inflation to use government money. So the private sector comes up with an alternative. But Bitcoin won't work as an alternative, but gold will, based on the same principles, utilizing blockchain and the internet. When you're talking about using gold as money and a crypto backed by gold, you're not talking about a get-rich-quick scheme, but you're just talking about empowering people to have a better monetary system so that they don't go broke, so that they can save and have their savings grow in value over time rather than sink, and freeing a lot of people from a banking system and making it easier for people in a lot of countries who are unbanked to actually easily have a account that they could use to facilitate payments, so that they can buy whatever they want, or they can receive money in exchange for their services and be paid. And the beauty of gold is it's a universal money. It's the same all over the world. And so, you could be a poor person in Africa, and you could just be, taxing around tourists that come to your country, and they could just easily pay you in gold through your smartphone, and you can receive your payments. Doesn't matter whether they're coming from the United Kingdom, the United States, France, Japan, Australia. They could all pay you in gold, and then you could use your gold to pay all your bills. And you don't need a bank, and whatever you don't spend that you save, it's going to gain value, because over time prices go down in relation to gold, and you can grow your purchasing power through your savings. So people, I think, when they learn about it, will adopt it. I think merchants, when businesses have an opportunity to be paid in real money, they'd prefer it if it's just as easy to get paid in phony money. I think workers would like their wages in real money, especially people that are signing long-term contracts to be paid over longer periods of time. I mean, inflation can wipe you out, but if you're going to get paid in grams of gold, that's a lot better, especially if you know that your landlord. What if your rent is also in gold? Because your landlord says, I'd rather have this a rent in gold. So now you have your rent in gold, but then your salary is in gold, right? So as the world starts moving away from these fiat currencies to gold, and they start pricing things in terms of gold, right? And the governments are irrelevant. And now they have to be honest, because now if everybody wants gold and nobody wants their paper, well, now if they want to come up with a government program, they're going to have to provide people with gold because that's what everybody wants. And so now they have to be honest. Now they have to have taxes that meet their expenditures. They can't run these massive deficits and monetize them and cover the shortfall by creating inflation.